Hi, I'm Ed Plumacher of the United States Blind Baseball Association, and you are listening to White Canes Connect.
Hey there, PA Federationists. Welcome to another episode of White Canes Connect, presented by the National Federation of the Blind of Pennsylvania. My name is David Goldstein. I am the first vice president of the NFBFPA. Joining me today is White Canes Connect creator and co-host, Lisa Bryant. Lisa, how are you today?
I am good, David, and I feel like I know a little bit more about blind baseball. Thank you for bringing Ed Plumacher to our attention. What a great story about, what is now the very beginning, the baby stages of the United States Blind Baseball Association.
Yeah, it really is exciting, and I can't wait to watch this grow. I've known Ed for a few years, obviously through Bryant and that Real Blind Tech show. And obviously I've listened to him for a lot longer than that. And just an outstanding thing that he's doing, trying to get this blind baseball off the ground here in the US. And as you'll hear in the interview, besides that, he's done so much more throughout his life with all sorts of sports.
And I think folks will be very inspired about hearing his journey through losing his vision. So let's take a listen.
Ed, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, David. Thanks for having me. And Lisa, it's great to meet you, and I'm happy to be here.
It is great to meet you too, Ed. And I have to, full confession here, David has wanted to have you on for some time. And when, we finally, got our schedules together, I told David, I said, okay, you're going to have to lead this conversation. I know zilch about baseball, but I have to say that he also sent me another interview you did, and your story is really much more than just baseball. So I actually do have something to talk about with you.
Okay, great.
So before we get into what is the United States Blind Baseball Association, just give us a little bit of background about you. Like, who is Ed Plumacher? In fact, what is your blindness condition?
So I was diagnosed at 15 with retinitis pigmentosa, and like most teenagers, they tell you, you have this disease, and it didn't mean a lot to me at the time. I knew I had night blindness, but my day vision was still good, and I did bump into things from time to time, but mostly in dim light and stuff like that. But it really didn't start to manifest itself until I guess I was in my late 20s, around 27 or so, and then just slowly progressed. I ended up having to stop driving at the age of 34. But I had acquired a company and then taken it over and then revamped it and rebuilt technology and then put me in the professional sports broadcasting field. And mostly at the beginning, working with baseball sports productions, doing real-time 3D graphic replays of live action. And then, I was able to move that into working with tennis for ATP, where I got to do the Master Series and did all the European venues for that. And golf took me around the world to South Africa and China and lots of events in Canada, United States. So, and then the last thing we did was use the technology and we started doing ski jumping events. So I was doing ski jumping all through Europe at one point. So it was a great career. I got to travel the world. I had enough vision that I could move around pretty well at that time. And then, the driving thing was an issue, but then the vision just kept going little by little by little. And one thing I've learned about working now in vocational rehab, because I'm an adaptive technology specialist at Lighthouse Guild in New York City, is you see all kinds of ways that people lose their vision. And even with retinitis pigmentosa, I meet young people with RP now. And, at the age of 18, 19, some of them have light perception. And I'm amazed by that. And I'm blessed that, my vision held out for as long as it did.
You said you traveled around the world. How many countries do you think you've been to?
Oh, gosh. I counted them a while ago, but it's, in Asia, China, Korea, Japan, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, mostly all the European countries, with the exception of Spain. For some reason, I never made it to Spain. And then in South Africa, and we crossed the border at Zimbabwe just to say we did. So
So
yeah,
fascinating.
and Canada, United States, and I think I've been in 48 of the 50 states. So
Wow.
Before we go into the association, for folks like me who have mistakenly sort of interchanged beep baseball with blind baseball, what is the major distinctive between the two?
blind baseball is the closest game to real baseball. I mean, I played beep ball. I liked it. It was exciting. But in our game, we actually do the 4 core skills associated with baseball: hitting, fielding, throwing, and running the bases. In beep ball, you hit the ball, the fielder retrieves the ball, holds it up in the air, the play's over. In our game, the fielder has to field the ball, has to orient himself and make a clean throw to a defensive second baseman. There's only one defensive player in the field who was with vision with a mitt, and you have to make a clean throw to him to get the runners out. If he catches the ball before the runners tag up at the next base, then they're out. And that's the thing too. Beep ball, the play ends if the runner gets to either first or third base, and that's it, then they score that as a run. We score a run like you do in real baseball. You have to make it around first, be safe at second, get hit over to third by your teammate, and then hopefully have someone be able to drive you home to be able to score at home plate.
But no shade a bit against the people who like beep baseball, right?
No. Like I said, I've played the game. I went to 2 World Series with the Long
Yeah.
Island Bombers. It was it's a fun game. It's a great game, and believe it or not, the people who played beep baseball, when they come out and play our game, their skills are honed well enough that they're able to pick our game up a little faster than people who've never played beep ball
Oh, that's
or
interesting.
baseball itself. Yeah.
Yeah. So you mentioned quite a few different sports. So you had already sort of a sports history. And sounds like you kind of never lost that, but there was, I think I heard that there was a period of time, maybe that was during the time of the transition of the vision progressing, that you hadn't really kept up with some of the sports. So talk about the journey back into that world and how you came to realize we need an association and what is the goal of the association. I know that's a lot at one time,
Sure.
but
Yeah. So basically the job I had, it was a lot of travel, a lot of living in hotels. You basically bounced around the world with a crew, because we had people that were doing the graphics. We had to have people, maintaining the computer systems. We had people who had to, set up the camera systems and make sure all the cables were lined up and pulled properly and set up. So there was probably anywhere from 3 to 7 people we would travel with, depending on the sport and depending on the type of budget that was on the other side paying us. But so it's a lot of late nights, which means, you're working late, you're eating in hotels all the time. So you put a little weight on, there's not a lot of time for exercise.
yeah.
So when I stopped working and found myself blind, I was probably about 45 pounds overweight. And, I was sitting home. I didn't know how to be blind. There wasn't a lot I knew how to do. I couldn't jump in a car and go to a gym. So, and I lived out in Suffolk County, Long Island. We didn't have sidewalks where I was, and I lived down on the water, so there was only one way into the area I lived in, and it was almost a mile away. So I would walk up to that road and back in the beginning, and that would be like a 2-mile trek, and then I eventually expanded it where I would go along Montauk Highway and go down the next road, just west of me, and go down there and come back up. So that made it a 4-mile trek. And I started doing that in the mornings. And then next thing I knew, I was doing it in the afternoons. And I went from there to start lifting some weights and it was really getting myself back in shape. And I did my first my half marathon when I was 51.
Oh, cool.
And I trained for that because I was on social media and I saw that this gentleman with retinitis pigmentosa had run a half marathon with he'd run a full marathon with his cane.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
said, you know what? I could probably do that.
So you did it with your cane?
I did it with a cane, but I did I did reach out. I sent an email to the organizers. It was the Asbury Park a half marathon, and they connected me with this woman who was a teacher, and she agreed to run with me. So we, she ran with me, and we collided like I think maybe a quarter mile in, and because the one thing I didn't anticipate was the pack. You just packed in at the beginning, so
Yeah.
we crossed paths, and she went down and I went down on top
Oh
of
my
her.
gosh.
And then she brushed herself off, got up and said, "We're finishing this race." So we did. And that was the start of it. And from there I found a support group, which allowed me to find out about an adaptive program for martial arts, for ninjutsu. And I found that very helpful too, because I was experiencing a lot of vertigo issues, losing my vision, which is pretty common.
Hmm.
So that helped with the rolling and the grappling and everything. When I first started doing it, I would have to stop because I would just get overwhelmed and dizzy. But just keeping with it and staying fit and being active did that. And then from there, I went on to adaptive water snow skiing, and then we found an adaptive water skiing program. And then I started a New York Outriggers program with a group out of Huntington Beach, California, called Makapo, which means dark eyes in Hawaiian. And these are the 6-man Hawaiian canoes with the boom on the side. So he had the connection with the New York Outriggers. I had the connection with the blind community in New York City. We merged them all, and we were able to put this program together. From there, I started doing the tandem biking with a group called In Tandem. We had tried to start a blind lawn bowling thing, but that kind of fiddled out after about a year. Probably more so because the people who were sharing the lawn bowling facility with weren't as friendly to the blind folks as they could have been.
I don't think I'm familiar with lawn bowling.
Yeah, it's kind of like I don't know if you're familiar with bocce ball.
Okay.
It's a little like bocce ball where you have a mark where you have to roll the ball to, and then people can knock you out and things like that. So it could be if someone's just describing to you and you've mastered the art of rolling the ball, it's fun. It's a good game.
Curling without the ice.
Yeah, kind of like curling without the ice and the broom.
It doesn't sound like there are too many sports that you have not done.
Yeah, well, we like to try them all. They're out there, and it's a great opportunity. I wish I had known about the Achilles program earlier when I was going to do the half marathon or so. But again, it takes me 2 hours to get to work, and a lot of these activities take place in Central Park, so it is a little difficult when the weekends roll around. So, and I'm very active now with the United States Blind Baseball Association.
And how did you, after all of, getting back into that sports world and acclimating yourself to being more physical, but how did you switch your focus to blind baseball?
So, like I mentioned earlier, I was playing, beat ball with the Long Island Bombers, and I was working in the city for a small agency, doing, when I lost my vision, I didn't know anything about adaptive technology. So I went through the normal channels with the New York State Commission for the Blind and got my mobility training, and then they sent me in for technology training in New York City, and then that's the first time I had heard a screen reader, which I hated. I couldn't spend more than 90 minutes in that computer lab, and I would leave with a headache. I'd say, okay, I'm done for today. I'd walk out, pop 2 aspirin, and head for the subway. But but I learned about Zoom text and things like that. So I'd also gotten my first iPhone around that time, and I found that to be a real game changer. I went from, struggling to do emails, and I couldn't really do text messages unless I had a magnifying glass in one hand, and trying to do that T9 typing situation was horrible. And to within a weekend, I was surfing the internet. I was on Facebook, social media. I was emailing. I was texting. I was like, this is a game changer.
Yeah.
So I actually wrote the first curriculum for New York State and got them to approve iOS training as part of adaptive technology training. So for almost 9 months, I was the only person in New York State that was authorized to teach iOS devices. But that landed me, in the community and being involved with the visually impaired people, a lot of students, and I would do workshops at the Andrew Heskel Library, which is a Braille and talking book library in New York City, and just being active with all the other sports. That I got a phone call one day from one of the New York State counselors for the New York State Commission for the Blind from Harlem, and she said she had two people who were blind visually impaired. They were from Italy, and they were trying to introduce their version of baseball. And could I help them? Could I talk to them? So I said, sure, send them down. And they came down, we met, they told me, they explained the game. I was intrigued by it. The next day we met over in Central Park, and they showed me how to perform some of the tasks, running, the throwing, the hitting, things like that. And I picked up right away that this was more like real baseball, which I played growing up. I love baseball, and I played it a lot. It just consumed me during the summertime. I grew up in a small town in New Jersey, and it was nothing. You wanted to do something, you hopped on your bike, you had your bat, you had your ball, you had your mitt with you, and you would drive, pedal around, and you would find pickup games anywhere in the town I lived in. So it was just part of the culture, and this brought all that back.
I think it's interesting that you found out about blind baseball from another country. I just think
well, yeah, because this game was actually invented in Italy they introduced it in 1998. People don't realize how huge baseball is in Italy. And it goes back to World War II when the Allies moved into Italy, and the soldiers would play, and a lot of the Italian fathers were gone or killed in the war, and their sons would just, hang around with the soldiers, and they'd watch them play baseball, and they picked up on it. And then, they learned about the Yankees, and then they learned about Joe DiMaggio, so that was their hero. So it really has strong roots in Italy. And, that they invented this game, and it's so well designed, and that's what I liked about it. I mean, I've seen a lot of injuries in beep ball, a lot of separated shoulders, dislocated elbows, broken wrists, and I watched my shortstop one time take a line drive to the nose, and that's a very large ball, and it's heavy with all the electronics inside it, and
yeah.
So this game, I find it to be extremely safe, and it works well. It's a mixed gender sport, so it's it's men and women on the same team, and they do get to do some things a little differently. Like if we round first, we get to go on the outside of first base. They get to cut the inside of first base, and that works out well. And they do hit about 6 feet in front of the plate that the men stand at. But other than that, everything else in the field of play is the exact same. So. Yeah, it does work well. We were picked up by sanctioned by the World Baseball Softball Confederation in 2022, and they held the first inaugural Blind Baseball International Cup in Beek, Netherlands. So we had 2 teams in New York City to try it out. I was mostly coaching at that time. I went over and I went through the tryouts with them. And I was surprised when the coaches from Italy who were giving us the bid to go into the tournament, picked me to be on the team. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm 62 years old.
So the USBBA,
yes.
When did that actually come together, and how many teams are in it? So
it came together following our bronze medal win at that tournament, which I was the starting shortstop for that. So I played every minute of every game in that thing. So we realized at that point that, yes, we can compete internationally. We can, but we need to be better organized. So we came back and we formed the United States Blind Baseball Association. We formed the first team under the USBBA umbrella, which was and we were able to get the Lighthouse Guild to sponsor that team. So the LG Lightning, the Lighthouse Guild Lightning, was the first team, and then we rolled out the second team, which is the Harlem Jazz. We wanted to give recognition to Harlem for the roots, for the initial ambassadors that came over. They actually lived in Harlem for 6 months for 2 years. They came over each year and rented an apartment in the spring and summer of 2015 and 2016. And the counselor that called me worked in the Harlem office. So we wanted to recognize that. So that's why we came up with the Harlem Jazz.
Just take a step back and tell us, position wise, what are the players in the field? How do you have the alignment out in the field?
All right. So the way the game works is that the defense, all action on the field takes place in the left field side of the field. So there's no action between first and second base in the field. So we have 5 defensive players. We line them up either 3 front, 2 back, or 2 front, 3 back, depending on the team you're playing and maybe even the power of the hitter. So if you play 3 up, you'll have somebody playing just to the right of second base. You'll have your normal shortstop position. You'll have your third base position, and then your left fielder and your center fielder, or whatever you want to call them. They'll be in the left fielder will be in the apex of the third base and shortstop, and then the other outfielder will be in the apex of the shortstop and the second baseman. And we're positioned spaced out accordingly. We play at different depths, so when you move laterally, you're not going to collide. And the ball is hit, by the hitter. We hit the ball out of our own hands, and the ball does not have any electronics in it, so it has two chimes in it, and you have to basically pick up the sound of where it's strictly an auditory game. Everybody on that field to play wears a blindfold, the level of field to play, because someone like David would have a big advantage over someone like me if we were playing on the field.
Except for the running, the hitting, and the fielding part.
Well, but you'd be able to see where the ball was coming from.
Maybe I would see it for a second or two. Yes, yes.
Yeah, so you have to listen, pick it up, and you're not just listening for where it is. You basically learn to pick up the trajectory and track where it's going, because when this ball stops, unlike a beep ball that's continuously beeps, when it stops rolling, it stops making noise.
It's gone.
So you basically have to figure out where is that ball, and you basically converge onto that area, and then there are techniques for moving your arms or even laying on the ground and rolling to roll over the ball to pick it up. But the main thing is if the ball is coming at you, is you want to get down. You get down on the ground similar to goal ball, and you let the ball hit your body. Once it hits your body, you know where it is, and you're able to retrieve it.
Okay, so what if the ball is hit in the air? Is that an issue, or is that?
That would be an out. The ball has to hit the ground. Before this, we have a fair line, and that fair line extends just past third base and just past second base. So it has to hit the ground before that area. So, which is the area where after that is where the fielders are. So it has to hit the ground before it gets near the fielders. If you hit the ball into the outfield in the air, it's an out.
Okay. And 3 outs, just like regular baseball.
3 outs.
Is that right?
And 3 outs and then 3 strikes. The only difference with the strikes is a third foul is a strike. Okay.
No catcher. No pitcher, nobody in those areas.
No catcher, no pitcher, and that's a big difference too. With beep ball, the most talented individual on the field is a sighted pitcher. People watch. The novice walks up and watch people playing beep ball, they think we're sitting there, blindfolded and we're swinging at the sound of the ball, and we're not. You basically have a defined swing, and you work on having a very consistent swing, and you work extensively with the pitcher, because the pitcher's on your team. His job is to get you to hit. So, and you develop a cadence, ready, set, pitch, and you learn exactly in that cadence when to swing. He knows when you're swinging. He knows the zone that your bat's coming through, and he is throwing that ball right at where he believes that bat's going to be. And he's only 20 feet away.
Oh God.
I'm
guessing there's some injuries there.
There's a lot of injuries there. You take a line drive right back. I'm sorry, there's not a lot of time sometimes to move out of the way of that ball. So yeah, I think like I said, beep ball's fun, but I think it's a much more dangerous game than blind baseball.
And you said there are how many teams right now in the association?
So right now we have two teams. There is another team. It's a Lions team. They're on their own. They've opted right now not to come into the USBBA, but we are talking to them, and some of their guys want to start practicing with us and stuff. So hopefully they'll fold in, and then we're actually expanding. So we may actually have another third team that we're going to form out of our overflow. Right now we have 26 or 28 players. We have 12 on each team right now. So, and the other ones are all new. So we will expand that. And we are in talks with a group in Pittsburgh, and we're hoping we'll be able to expand there. We're going to be doing a skills and development camp in Orlando during the National Federation for the Blind convention. And we do have a group there that is interested in forming teams there as well. So, last month I went to a Move United Adaptive Sports Conference in Phoenix, and I spent the conference time out there just talking to all these different adaptive sports organizations around the United States, and we got a lot of positive feedback. So we're hoping that we'll be able to start expanding quite quickly.
Right, and I would imagine as you expand, it's going to have a need for some funding, because obviously to travel from New York to Pittsburgh or Pittsburgh to New York, whatever it might be, right now everybody's close.
Right.
What do you have in place to fund?
So what we've been doing is we formed it as a nonprofit corporation. We filed for our 501c3. We do all our own fundraising right now. The other thing too is that there are a couple of great organizations that our athletes have applied for grant, and the first one being the Foreseeable Future, where they gave grants to I think 7 of the 13 players that applied for that grant. And then the Challenged Athlete Foundation is another great organization, and we had 100% compliance. Everybody who applied for that grant received the grant from the Challenged Athlete Foundation, and that allows them to pay for their airfare, their travel, and their hotels, their equipment. By them doing that, the fundraising that we do with the USBBA allows us to use those funds to focus on making sure that our coaches and our volunteers are able to travel and not spend money out of their own pockets. So right now it's working. We are looking into start writing larger grants for next year, and tying in with a lot of existing adaptive sports agencies around the country, organizations around the country. Most of them are already established 501c3 entities, and they have funding to integrate this into their programs.
Wait, that sounds great. Now, do you have, I know with the beep ball, they would have tournaments, so everybody would come to a central spot as opposed to team A going to team B and so forth and so on. Is that what you're planning to do, similar to what you did with the World Series in the Netherlands? Are you planning to do something
the
like that?
International Cup? Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
But you have to have enough teams to do that with.
Right.
So this year's WBSC World Baseball Softball Confederation's Blind Baseball International Cup takes place in London, UK, at the end of September. So we'll be looking to field a very competitive team this year. It's going to be a tough field this year because, from what I understand, Cuba is going to be in, and Cuba has the Italians dominate the sport right now. UK is coming on very strong. We've got some very strong players, but Cuba also is very strong in this sport. The last time Italy and Cuba met in 2019, I think the final game was a 1-0.
Oh wow!
Win. Yeah, it was very, very tough. So it's very competitive. So, we're looking to medal, and we're going to play as hard as we can.
And how many teams will that be? Will it be 8 again, or is it going to be more? Do you know?
Last time it was a 6-country tournament.
6. I'm sorry. Okay.
But there are teams now in China. There's teams in Hungary. I hear that they both want to attend. So it's I haven't gotten the final count. I have a meeting next Monday on the 20th, and I guess I will get the details. And I would love to see it be an 8 or 9 country tournament.
Well, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. I know the Phillies and the Mets are playing in the UK. Maybe folks will get interested that way too.
Yeah, well, the UK actually won the the ability to have the International Cup there this year, and the British Baseball Federation was very significant in doing that for them. And people don't always think about these European countries as loving baseball, but there are some nice baseball programs in some of these countries, and British Baseball Federation is pretty strong. So we are looking to, one of the things that we'll be bringing up in our meetings, we're looking maybe to host a 2026 International Cup.
Stepping back to the game itself, so you've got 5 players in the field.
Yeah,
not counting the second baseman. Is that right?
Not counting the defensive second baseman. So,
okay.
All right, and then so like I said, it's an auditory game. So your first base has an electronic beep in it.
Okay.
So when you hit the ball, first base goes off.
Okay.
We don't stop at first base. We round first base, or the women cut in front of first base. We actually have to make it to second base to be safe.
Okay.
And that's for timing purposes. Most people would be at first base before the fielders were able to cleanly field the ball, orient themselves, and make a clean throw to second base. So that doesn't work.
Okay.
But it works with second base. We were in Italy. We're watching these Italian players. Some of them are making it to second base in 10.5 seconds. Totally blind, running at full speed, rounding first, and sliding into second base to be safe.
The second baseman, the defensive second baseman, same person the whole game for both sides?
No.
Okay.
Each team has their own defensive second baseman.
Okay.
So now on second base, there's actually a coach for your team on second base, and he has a set of clappers. So when you round first base, he starts clapping these clappers, and they make they make a unique sound, because you also have clappers at third base, so the sound is slightly different, so you can distinguish the two.
Okay.
So you round first base, he starts hitting the clappers, first base shuts down, and then the clappers bring you into second base, and the closer you get, the faster he starts clapping to let you know you're getting very, very close, and then because you cannot overrun second base, because you're out.
Okay.
So he brings you in, you get on second base. Now, he's not allowed to talk to you. He is allowed to orient you. He can help orient you and face you properly toward third base. And that's all he can do. He can, like I said, there's no communication. And then next, the hitter comes up, hits the ball. You cannot leave that base until the umpire yells fair ball. The ball has to pass that corridor where you run through to be fair. Once it passes that line, you now have to get to third base, and hopefully the hitter is already rounded first by the time you're running. So and if the ball is fielded and it is caught by the defensive second baseman before the second baseman gets to second base, he's out. If the third baseman has not arrived at third base when that is out, it's a double play.
Okay, that was my next question. Okay. And I'm guessing that's also for safety reasons. You don't want somebody going at the hit of the bat and ending up running right into where the ball's coming. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct. Yeah. And the same thing, so then, if you're safe at third, you're on third base. The third base umpire actually wears a mitt, and he stands, fairly close to where the third baseman, where the man on base at third base is, so that if something is hit toward that player with the blindfold on, the umpire will actually catch that ball or get in front of him to field that ball.
Okay. So if you argue with the umpire and you're on third base once and, I missed that one, and it clocks you.
It clocks you in the head, you know what happened, right?
Yeah. He's holding the grudge is what's happening.
Yeah. And the same thing, when you leave, when they call fair ball, the third baseman starts their clappers as well. So
okay.
And that's what brings you into third base. Now, third base, you are allowed to overrun.
Okay. So you've got 5 players in the field. How many does everybody bat, or does that rotate? How does that work?
No, just your players bat, your defensive players.
Just the ones who are in the field also then run in and then bat, right. And the other people are on the bench and hoping to get in.
Right. Now you can have a designated hitter and then have someone run for that hitter.
Okay.
And we did that in the tournament, because when we got to the tournament in the Netherlands team actually had 2 players that were blind, visually impaired, and they were also in wheelchairs.
Oh wow! Okay.
And they were actually, when we played them in a scrimmage, they actually would hit the ball and use the wheelchairs to go around the bases.
Wow.
And then the tournament, they elected to allow them to have pinch runners. So the pinch runners were introduced. So we took advantage of that because we had a very good hitter, but he was slow around the bases. And we had this girl that made our team. She now works with me at the Lighthouse, and she's just has some set of wheels.
Huh,
So
okay.
so we let her run for him, and that worked out really well.
Ed, what is the goal, the ultimate goal of the association? Where do you want to be, and do you have a time frame in mind, or where you
Yeah,
want to get there?
so our goal is, to be, with the governing body for this sport in the United States, to work very closely with AIBXC, which is the governing group from Italy that founded the game, and also the World Baseball Softball Confederation, to get this declared a para sport. The goal is to try and make it into the 2032 Brisbane Olympics in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
So we are working on, the Italians, AIBXC and WBSC are working to expand the sport in different countries. Dominican Republic now has just started up a program last year. They're coming on. China, I believe, has 6 sets of equipment were sent over. So I believe they're working on 4 to 6 teams over there. Pakistan has a team, a couple of teams as well. And, Hungary is on, and something's going on in the Czech Republic. I'm not sure exactly, everything that goes on, in all these different areas around the world. And I think Argentina and Australia are in the mix right now. So, we have the country foundation, and if we can just get the competitive level up, it'll hopefully make that happen.
Yeah, baseball is much more global than I realized. So how many, because you said you even have some players now who aren't really, you have an overflow of players right now,
Yeah, we have an
right?
overflow of players, because we don't discriminate. Anybody can come out and play. We have players that are in their mid 60s. We have players that our youngest player right now is 20.
Mm-hmm.
We have players that are there to play competitively, to be in tournament play, and we have players that come out for social and recreation. So it's a nice mix. The ones that are more serious right now, we have them on the teams. The other ones are learning the game, and they're still trying to define their roles and things like that. But there's enough people to keep coming out. I mean, we almost doubled over the winter because of
Wow.
everything we did last year. We run clinics, in all these youth clinics. We ran a clinic at the Bronx Institute for Special Education where we ran a day of skills and development for 93 of their students from middle school to grade 12. We just ran a program on May 4th in Central Park for the Lighthouse Guild Saturday Youth Program, where we worked with the kids I work with on Saturdays, teaching them tech. We had them out on the ball field. We had 19 of them out there, 6 to 13-year-olds with their parents, and it was just a great day. We had one of our local pizzerias that we love donates to pizzas. This is the 3rd time we've done this, and the kids just have a great day. And many of them, when the first time we bring them out, it's the first time they've run.
Yeah.
First time they've ever stepped on a ball field.
Mm-hmm.
And the parent to have this is the first year we invited the parents, and to just see the parents open up and just watch their kids out there, actually playing an organized team sport. It just really, really works. And, my dream is to hopefully have one of these kids that we do at these youth clinics actually be on that team in 2032 if we make the Brisbane Olympics.
I don't know. I have never run even above a jog, especially without a cane. I don't, that almost sounds scary to me. And I would imagine that's something at the beginning that people are a little apprehensive over, especially if they have a little bit of sight. And then now you're putting the blindfold on them and telling them, hit the ball and run that way.
Run full speed.
Yeah. And full speed. Right.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, the girl I mentioned earlier, it's not fair to call her. She's a woman. She's a mom and everything, but, and she runs very, very fast. But the first time we brought her out, we put a blindfold on her, and we told her to run, to run around toward first base where the sound was coming from. She took 3 steps and stopped, and then took 3 more steps and stopped. She was afraid.
Yeah.
She had her hands out in front of her like Frankenstein.
Right.
And she tells a story all the time. She was petrified,
Mhm.
and it's just great to have properly trained coaches and volunteers, and just that they're there to make sure you don't get hurt.
Mhm.
Now, don't get me wrong, injuries can happen. I mean, I bounced off a fence. We had another player hit a fence a few weeks ago because, when you get competitive, the juices are flowing and the adrenaline's there, and you
Throw
take
caution
off
to the wind.
and you take off and you just want to get there. And then it doesn't take much to drift. If you drift over
Yeah.
and you're not fully on your game, you can go. In this one field we play on, the dugout fence is a little closer to the first baseline than I would like, but I've I've never hit that fence again.
Sounds like a whole lot of fun. So are you still playing a lot, or are you mostly coaching now?
No, I'm still playing. I was thinking of not being that competitive this year, but it's every time I get out there, I
They
can't.
pull you back in.
I can't stop.
Yeah.
It's like our director of baseball operations, Don Landolfi, who's he's a Hall of Fame college baseball coach, and him and I we worked together to build this sport since 2015. I actually had walked away from it at the end of 2016 after I got the job at Lighthouse Guild because with my 2-hour commute 2-hour commute home, I just didn't have the time. It was a new job. I had a lot to learn and everything, so I had walked away from it for a few years. And when COVID hit, everything kind of fell apart. So a bunch of people were asking me to get involved again, so I did. In early 2022, I stepped back in and basically rebuilt an entire team, and had 4 players from that new team make the Team USA and to go to the International Cup. And that was pretty incredible that we got the U.S. Baseball Federation actually allowed us to be Team USA in that international tournament. And when we stood there and we had our Team USA uniforms on and they're playing the national anthem, I was just so happy. I had put my blindfold on because nobody could see the tears that were flowing down my face.
Huh. Now, is that ongoing? Will you be able to? Is that going on
Yes.
forward now? You'll be able to do that every time?
Yes, yeah, they're actually they're waiting for us to give them the final details so we can get that sanction again to be able to do that. So it's important. You can't if you're going to play an international tournament, you're representing your country. So you have the support of your local baseball federation.
And have you gone to a designer for the uniforms yet?
Actually, we've actually designed the LG Lightning uniforms have been redesigned. We did a prototype last year when we unveiled the team, but we weren't happy with it. So we've redone it. All new uniforms are coming, and the Harlem Jazz uniforms are the design phase is finishing up, and we'll be getting those. And then Team USA uniforms will be ordered once we do the final figuring out who's going to actually represent us.
Okay.
So.
And they're unlike Major League Baseball, they're not see-through, and they're that are
no, and we're not going to let George Costanza tell us that we're cotton uniforms.
Ed, I'm curious. You sound like you wear a lot of hats. So you are, is your title founder of the association? And what is your infrastructure? What's your support system? Because you're talking about marketing and recruiting and coaching. So tell us how the association is set up.
So the association is only 14 months old.
Right.
So when we came back from the tournament in Europe, in the Netherlands, but at the end in the fall of 2022, we knew that we had to put something together, and it took us about 4 months to get all that put together. So it's Don Landolfi, who is our college. Is our director of baseball operations. I'm the president CEO. Kiana Glanton is listed as our secretary. We put a small board together so that we could hopefully at some point start bringing on, people who have contacts and money and things like that to help out. Marketing. Two of our players work in the marketing department at the Lighthouse Guild, and the Lighthouse has
That's
been
convenient.
very, very instrumental in helping us promote everything that we're doing.
Uh-huh.
We have access to their photographers, their graphic designers helped us out.
Mm-hmm.
So we get a lot of in kind donations,
Mm-hmm.
not just a monetary donation from them every year. So and we're just growing, and we do fundraising. We apply for grants, and a lot of the countries that we compete against, a lot of their funding actually comes from their governments. Where we don't have that here in the U.S. Here, it's you have to go out there and you have to learn how to, build a development team to go out there and fundraise.
We would be remiss if we didn't mention that this is not your day job. You're an adaptive technology trainer. What is your?
I'm the senior adaptive technology specialist at Lighthouse Guild. So
Mhm.
that's my day. Is I work with
Yeah.
people who have lost their job and because of visions, and they need to develop the skill set to be able to rebuild and find work, or people who are working and their vision is deteriorating and they need to make sure they can maintain a skill set to maintain employment. I work with high schoolers that are transitioning to college, so we make sure that they get the proper training and equipment to go to college, and the same when they transition from school back into the workforce. And then again, the thing I love the most is on Saturdays, I work with the 6 to 13-year-olds from October to beginning of May, teaching them tech. And I learn a lot of tech from them too. They seem to put an iPad in front of these kids, and they're just wizards.
Yeah. Yeah. And you didn't start off going down that route. In fact, we were alluding to earlier is that you kind of have some roots in our neck of the woods.
Yeah, that's where I started my college career in Villanova, on the
Mhm.
main line outside Philadelphia.
But you didn't study assistive or adaptive technology, right? You
No, no, I
started
didn't.
another, right?
No, I didn't know anything about that. I mean,
Right.
I went to school. I got my Bachelor of Science in Business Administration, focusing mostly marketing and finance.
Hmm.
I graduated. I graduated early. I would have been the class of '82, but I actually got out in '81 and went to work and started my first company in Atlanta, Georgia, a few months after I left school. And then sold my half out to my partner at that time, and then moved to New York because my fiance wasn't moving to Atlanta, and started that business there, and had a brief stint in on Wall Street, and found this small company that intrigued me because they actually had a baseball product, a baseball pitch analyzer. And I invested in that company and basically went to work for them to protect my investment and investment of my friends and stuff. So, and then once I got there, I realized that a lot of the things I was told weren't true. So I took the company over and then just
Mm.
reorganized it, revamped it, and had a nice 19-year career working with Major League Baseball and in the baseball commissioner's office, working for ATP, working with PGA, working with all of the major sports networks, ESPN, NBC, doing World Series and All-Star games, and it was great. I mean, it
Mhm.
was a nice life, and my wife stayed home, raised 5 children. I was on the road working, but we had great vacations when baseball season was down. We'd go skiing in Colorado, we'd go skiing in Europe, and it was fun.
So you kind of did what the New York Knicks have done just a lot earlier. You went to Villanova and then somehow ended up in New York.
My Nova Knicks.
I think what I like about your story too, Ed, is that you can personally identify, I'm sure as you're working with clients who maybe lost their vision later in life, you've lived that out yourself,
Mm.
and had to kind of like, okay, let me just stop licking my wounds here and just, get back in the game. Sorry
And,
for the
and and
pun.
that's and that's the key to get back in the game.
Yeah.
Before I got on a little bit early, so Dave and I had an opportunity to speak a little bit, and so I was telling him about I produced a play recently in
Hmm.
the United Solo Festival, and I did it because it was a student of mine who is an established actor, but he's dealing with vision loss, and it really has knocked him off his game, and total loss of confidence. He's had some bad experiences for showing up for some auditions and things like that, and he's also a playwright. He had written a script, and it's about the Palestinian-Israeli conflict. He wrote it 30 years ago, but if you listen to it, it's almost as if it was written today. It's so pertinent, so powerful. So I agreed to produce the play for him at this United Solo Festival, and we won Best Storytelling at the festival.
Wow.
And we had a meeting last Thursday, and looks like we're booking 5 shows off Broadway starting in July.
Oh my goodness. Congratulations. That's fantastic.
Yeah. And if that goes well, we'll look into the fall schedule.
And see, that's the thing. So there's that one part of it, once you do get back in the game. So you also talked about the importance of networking, and what you said was you got to put yourself out there. So for anyone who maybe at that early stage of losing their vision and figuring out, okay, now what? Talk more about that. Talk more about how you have had to just put yourself in the right places.
You have to, and that's exactly right. So when I went to my first support group meeting, which was a group out of it's on Long Island, Freeport Public Library, called Eye to Eye. I went there. It was my 51st birthday when I walked in there, and I didn't know anything, and I didn't know anybody, and I mostly listened and things, and I didn't, you don't know about this stuff. You don't know how to be blind, I didn't really have a lot of exposure to a lot of different people who were blind, and listening to the stories and things like that. I did start speaking at the second meeting, and I came to realize that I had a lot to offer other people, because I had a great life, great experiences, and I would meet these, like I said, these young people, and like David, said earlier, some of them, like they never got out of the box, and they're never going to be able to do what I did, but they can do things maybe close to that, if they have the confidence and the skill set and things like that. So by sharing my story and sharing my experiences, I also found out that it was making me feel better about myself. And that's basically what led me into vocational rehabilitation. So I went from being a student at the Lighthouse Guild to 3 years later being hired as their adaptive technology specialist. And in between then, I had worked for a smaller agency, and I told you I had introduced the iOS training to New York State Commission for the Blind and had that approved as well. So, you have to put yourself out there. You don't know what you're going to do or how you're going to do it, but you find your way. You have to be willing to take chances, and you have to be willing to stand up there. And, courage is something that you have to, fear can just devastate and stop you, and you have to have the courage just to move forward. And I always tell people, even when you fall on your face, you're moving forward.
And I think that's the key. If you have the courage, then you build the confidence, and confidence is so huge when it comes to it.
Right.
Just getting out and about. A couple of quick questions.
Or fake it to make it.
Right. Mets or Yankees or someone else?
That is kind of a tough one. Growing up, I was always a Met fan.
Okay.
I grew up in a household, my mother and my grandfather, her father came from Brooklyn. They were Brooklyn Dodgers fans. And when those bums moved to California, there was no way they were going to be Yankee fans. And, so when the Mets started up, the Mets were it. And that's what I grew up with. When I got involved with baseball, you really lose your affiliation or love of a particular team, because you're involved with so much, and you really can't show any favoritism. Like, God forbid, you can never be in a press room or in a stadium like that, wearing a credential and cheer something you've just seen that your team did,
Right, unless you're doing the game on the radio or TV.
Yeah,
and you're the homer.
Yeah, but I have to say, I did develop an affection with the Yankees, because George Steinbrenner was very good. He was very good to me.
Okay.
I introduced technology to a sport that was based on tradition, and George was one of the few owners that recognized that what we were doing, what we were introducing to baseball was important. And he was the first owner to call Major League Baseball and tell him that he wanted my system in Yankee Stadium.
Oh, wow.
And we did, I did every spring training at now it's, Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. And he was very good to me. And when they built the new stadium, there's still a room there that has a plaque that has my company name on it.
Oh, wow. Wow, that is very cool. All right, next question, short one. Applications, favorite app that gets you through your day, not just the phone itself, because everybody knows the iPhone is the Swiss Army knife of assistive technology. What's your go-to app?
The app I probably use more every day is Oko.
Okay.
With my commute, I have to cross some streets where the pedestrian crossing signals either they're not there yet, or they may not be working, and I don't use it as my sole way to cross the street, but I will pull it out. I'll turn Oko on and I point it across the street to just to get that reinforcement of walk or don't walk.
Right, and some intersections, as we saw down in Houston when we were there last year, are just impossible to judge. You could stay there for half an hour and wonder how the traffic pattern is.
Exactly.
And so
you can't pick up the sound or the surge because there's just always something moving. So so in that regard, it does help. And I use that every morning on my commute. And going home sometimes as well. Usually going home when I leave the building, there's other people I walk with. So, but in the morning, it's usually just me by myself getting in there. Okay. Seeing AI is still a big one. Be My Eyes and Ira. Those are probably the top apps that I use. And now that there are versions of Soundscape that are back. I can't remember which one I'm using, but I always liked Soundscape.
Okay. I'm wondering what they're going to use this year down in Orlando. I know, and I can never remember the name of Good Maps, I guess it is.
Good Maps Explorer they had last year. And that was phenomenal in Houston because you could use that to find any exhibitor you wanted to.
I'm going to have to remember that this year because I did not use it. The only time we talked about it was when we were going over to the Astros game, and those guys were there. The one guy from I think he was from Ireland. Remember?
He was from the UK. Yeah.
Oh, UK. And he was one of the mappers.
Right. Well, and Mike May was with us too, and he's actually was consulting with them.
And it's funny how seeing AI. I think about it often. I love seeing AI when I'm on. For example, when I go to New York next week, I will use Seeing AI to read the signs that are around me and things like that. But when I want to know what a picture is, I love Be My Eyes, the feedback that you get, whether it's a menu or
the virtual assistant.
Yeah, the AI in that is just tremendous.
I was part of the beta program for that, and I had it, and I wanted to get into it because last May. I took 24 people to Bologna, Italy. So 14 blind visually impaired and 10 coaches. And we went to Bologna for a week. And for the sole purpose is I wanted my players to work with the Italians. I wanted our coaches to be trained by the Italian coaches. Mm-hmm. So I made sure I had that app. So when I went to a restaurant, I could just snap a picture of the menu and say, read me the pasta dishes, read me the chicken dish.
Wow. Okay. And how did it do translating it, or were the things in English? Okay.
It did great. Yeah. I also got lost when I was in Italy too, and I used Ira to save my bacon. I ended up in a neighborhood where nobody was speaking English. I couldn't figure out where I was.
Oh my gosh!
And I called Ira, and I said, "I'm talking to the Ira." He just said, "Hey, so is this your first time in Bologna?" But it was great. Once she tracked me down with the GPS and knew exactly where I was, I told her what hotel I was staying at. I told her what bus line I wanted to take, that I was hoping to take to get back and make sure I'm heading in decide to get the right direction. And she walked me right to the bus stop.
Wow.
It took about 18, 20 minutes to get there. And I got on the bus and I was back to my hotel safe and sound.
Now, I think Brian would kill both of us if you didn't talk a little bit about that Real Blind Tech Show.
Brian and I have been podcasting for 9 years. We started the podcast together called iAccess VO. and it was really popular. We had a great amount of listeners and everything else, but it was one of those things. It got caught up with me working at the Lighthouse and commuting. At that time I was producing the show and doing all the audio editing and everything, and it was a lot of work, and I didn't have the time, so I had to step back for it, and then Brian went on and worked with someone else and had Real Blind Tech Show or something like that, and then or that Blind Tech Show, and then they had actually asked me to come on, so I was doing some like sporadic co-hosting, sometimes guest hosting or whatever, and then something happened with them, and then Brian called me up one day and says, "You want to do this together?" I said, "Brian, I'd love to do it, but I can't be involved in the editing side." He goes, "I'll take care of the editing," and I give him a lot of credit. I mean, he took the time and learned how to use Reaper to do his audio editing and stuff like that. And in the beginning, he was paying somebody to edit the show. And then he learned to do it and everything, and it's been great. I think we're at 145 or 47 shows, something like that now.
Yeah, it's getting close to 150, if not. And the one thing that I love when I listen is the timing that he does, and maybe it's his stand-up side able to do it. The way he puts the clips in, it sounds like he's doing it as everybody's talking about it.
Sometimes people think that he plays the clip live while we're doing the show, and it's not. His mind is always going at 150 miles an hour. And these things just pop in his head, and he goes and he searches, he finds the clip, and he drops it in, and he's gotten so good at his audio editing that it just works,
Right.
And the whole show works. There's four of us that are the mainstays, and I do appreciate, David, when I am, when I'm traveling or I'm sick or I'm out, you fill in sometimes too, and that's great, and it works, and it's a lot of fun. We have fun doing it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the whole thing. And I said to Brian, I said, look, I don't mind filling in, but I like it better when the four of you are there. The four normal ones are there. If you can call the, all of you normal.
You can't call us normal, yeah.
But the fact two of you are on a PC, two of you are on a Mac. I mean, it just has all the bases covered, and it's a fun show. It's just a fun show to listen to, and you end up learning some stuff sometimes about things you didn't really need to know about, but sometimes it's stuff you need. And
the only thing, it is a little hazardous, though. We do have people fall off treadmills or choke on food or spit coffee into their wives' faces.
So Ed, we want to make sure you have time to plug away. How can folks either see? I think, are there some actual games on your Facebook page if people want to get more familiar with
sure
the sport?
We have lots of videos and photos on our U.S. Blind Baseball Association Facebook page. You can also get to it right now if you do www.usbba.us. If they want information, or any listeners plan on being at the convention in Orlando, if you're interested in coming out on July 5th, 6th, or 7th, we will be doing, I said, 3 morning sessions from 9 to 12 each day. And on the 6th and 7th, we'll be doing 7 to 10 p.m. under the lights, because the city of Orlando has given us a field with lights, which will be awesome.
Nice.
So they can contact me, Ed Plumacher, EDPLUMACHER at USBBA.us, and I'd be happy to schedule a time to come over and make sure you bring some sneakers and sweats or shorts or whatever you want to do to come out there and throw some baseballs with us and try hitting and running some bases and check out blind baseball.
Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Do you know how close it is to the hotel?
Yeah, it's 15 minutes away. We will have some vans going back and forth. So, from the main convention hotels, and anybody who else wants to get there or have people that are with them to go. I'll give them the address of the field and everything.
All right. Well, Ed, this has been wonderful talking with you. Very excited to see you in Orlando, and I'm sure a lot of people will be looking for you there too. All the best with the association as you build it. Any other parting words before we go?
No, I want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to talk about something that's very, very dear to my heart.
Yeah.
Getting the USBBA off the ground here and expanding it. I really love the benefits that team sports offer. Even if you don't play baseball, go out there and try goal ball. Go out there and try tandem biking with adaptive sports group. Adaptive skiing can be wonderful. Kayaking, canoeing. Get out there and move. Go for a walk. What the biggest thing we have with people when they lose their vision, sometimes they start to cocoon. They're not socializing. They're experiencing some psychological, financial issues. Walking is free. But you have to use it or lose it. And especially people start having issues with weight and they become sedimentary and there's muscle loss and all those factors just make it even harder to get around and do things and live independently.
I think you're a great example of how you can always right that ship. And I think this is very exciting what you're doing. It's going to be really fascinating to see how it grows, and best of luck. All the best to you.
Great. And hopefully, I know David's going to be in Orlando. Are you going to be there as well?
I am trying to make my way there. Yes.
All right. Well, if you get there, we'll have to get together. If not on the field, then we'll have to have a cocktail or two together.
You bet. You bet.
Now you're talking Lisa's language.
Now you're talking.
Because every time I go out with David, all he has is iced tea.
You don't have to worry about that with me.
Very good. Well, guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate being on, and it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks again to Ed for stopping by and telling us all about the U.S. Blind Baseball Association. I'm so excited, Lisa, to see how things go with that and all the different teams. And, as somebody that has loved logos and designs over the years, even as a kid, I just can't wait to see what they come up with the Harlem Jazz and with some of the other teams that they bring into the league. I'm just really excited for that. And I'm hoping that I have some hats from some of those teams somewhere down the road.
Yeah. And it's nice to be able to say, we knew it when, we knew Ed when, because this is definitely going to grow. And you can hear Ed's passion and commitment. And I think it's also interesting how all of the various careers and positions and even the learning that he had in business, it's all kind of coming full circle now in what he's doing now.
Right. And let's not forget the Villanova connection there.
And let's not forget.
not too far from my house.
Yeah.
If you are in Orlando for the NFB convention coming up in July, you've got plenty of opportunities to go. Even if you're just going to watch how the blind baseball goes, if you want to give it a shot, it sounds like a lot of fun. I know I'm going to do one of the evenings. I don't know which one yet, but I will be at one of the evenings. I guess if I go to the first one, maybe I'll go to the second one, but we'll see. And Lisa, I hope you make it down to Orlando because it would be a lot of fun to go over there and maybe have a margarita and then watch you try to hit the ball.
And that's exactly how I would do it. I would have it in no other order. When he said, I was like, you know what? I might try that just to say I tried it. I'm not really athletic at all. I'm active in other ways physically, but I'm not really like a, sports player, but I might try that just to say I've done it.
Right. It really does sound like a lot of fun. So again, if you're in Orlando for the NFB convention in early July, make sure you connect with Ed at his table in the exhibit hall. And while you're in the exhibit hall, come over to the NFB of Pennsylvania table, and you'll be able to buy some chocolate bars, and you'll be able to buy some really cool embroidered bags that has White Canes Connect on it, among other things. So stop by, and we hope to see you in Orlando. And Lisa, I hope you do make it down there.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to get all of my ducks in order so that I can be there. Because
check the couch again.
I
get
the FOMO. I get the FOMO when I'm, not in the mix of things. So
there you go.
So I got to cure the FOMO. So listen, folks, if you would like to comment about a show, you have a show idea, we would love to hear from you. Our email address is whitecanesconnect@gmail.com.
Yeah, and let us know if you're going to be in Orlando for the NFB convention. Call 267-338-4495. You've got up to 3 minutes. Please leave your name and town if you do leave a voicemail. Again, like Lisa said, if it's about a particular show, you have a comment about whether you're going to be in Orlando, what you're looking forward to if you're going to Orlando, if you like baseball, if you hate baseball and wonder why there's not a blind football league, just let us know. Give us a call, 267-338-4495.
David, thanks for bringing Ed on to the show.
Yeah, I'm glad we had him on, and it was a lot of fun. And again, it'll be a lot of fun watching that association grow.
So thanks for listening, everybody.
Thanks for listening. Take care.